Our last little piece of the day of our 2024 NOFO Day of Learning. And this is our expansion Q&A with content designed for our existing CoC grantees that are interested in hearing about the process of creating an expansion grant. But to gain, this session is designed for existing grantees that are interested in applying for an expansion grant. Because this is a Q&A, I don't have a whole lot of content to present to you all. And of course, we'll prioritize any questions that you guys have. So just like we've done all day, please feel free to speak up at any time in person or over Zoom. On Zoom, I know sometimes it's hard to interject in the in-person conversation. So if it's easier for you to do the raise your hand, that'll put you at the top of my screen and we can make a pause for you. And at the end of the session, the goal is that you'll leave the understanding on how to submit an expansion grant application and how that application is going to be ranked in our priority list. So we won't spend too much time here. These are renewal basics. I know we have a couple of grants that this would be their second time renewing. We don't have anybody that's doing a first time renewal, right? Because we didn't have anybody awarded in 2023?
No.
Okay, so all of our agencies have been through the renewal process. As you all know, all applicants have to complete that part 1, all of those good certifications every single year. Part 1 includes the review of application type, applicant profile, congressional districts, certification on drug-free workplace, certification on lobbying, etc. If it's your first time renewing, you still have to complete the remainder of the application, but most of the information will autofill for you from last year. So that is helpful, but then it gets even easier the next time. If it's your second or greater year renewing, you have that opportunity to submit without changes. There's still some content that you have to review and testify that's still correct if you submit without changes. But it does greatly reduce the pages that you have to go through. There's only a couple instances where you would not be eligible to submit without changes. You cannot submit without changes if HUD has placed a condition on last year's application, requiring your organization to adjust information such as units, unit configuration, or any budget line items. Or you cannot submit without changes if you executed a grant agreement amendment resulting in changes needed to the renewal project application. We haven't really experienced anything like that before. So more often than not, it is a viable option to submit without changes. You're limited to what you can change on your renewal grant. Couple of things that you can do is you can add or edit a subrecipient. I guess maybe change your subrecipient would be better wording. But you can take on a new subrecipient. You would, just signify who that is. You'll review and update your project description, review and update the services that you provide, and review and update your sources of match if necessary. You can change the households and persons served only if your budget is being reduced due to reallocation. Other than that, you have what you have from your original application. And then there's things that you cannot do when you're renewing, including you cannot request an increase in a renewal project's total annual renewal amount. You cannot request any shifting of funds more than 10% from one budget line item to another, unless it's due to reallocation, as in your total ARA has been reduced, and so you have to completely refigure your budget line items. And then you cannot request a change in the configuration counts in units or bedrooms in rental assistance budget line item, again, unless it's due to reallocation. So those are the basics that you all have been through multiple times. There's a couple other additional actions that you can take when you're renewing your grant. First of which is consolidation, which is combining 2 or more renewing projects with the same agency, obviously, and the same component type. So it would have to be the same project type As in, you could not consolidate a PSH and a rapid rehousing, they have to be exactly the same.
Did, UHC, were you guys successful in or consolidating? I thought you guys were thinking about it.
We don't think so. No,
Cause it still awarded us separately.
Oh,
it was
Okay.
on Howard and Rave and on the, award notice where it had all the grants listed,
uh-huh,
they were listed separate.
Yeah.
So we're in the middle of
Why
looking.
not?
Right. Yeah.
Definitely, ask
Yeah.
for some more input on that.
please.
It'll
Make your life a lot easier.
Yeah, we're looking at doing something with Rave right now, so we're definitely gonna ask her, but,
Okay.
So can I ask a question? I know we don't wanna spend too much time on this, but like, say, as far as like units, like, okay, say. In my application, it says I have, units in Oconee County, but say I may not have units in
I'm
Oconee.
not breathing on it.
Is that part of that I can change? I'm probably going back to
Why
the
would not
last,
have units in Oconee County?
well, I'm just saying, for instance, like if there's something wrong, or say, like if there's something wrong with the number of units that are matching or something.
Mhm.
Are you able to change that at that time?
Yeah, we don't.
We're looking at doing an amendment on one of
Mhm.
ours.
Right.
One of the reasons too is, we don't have units in Oconee County, but the difference between Greenville and Oconee, Demar is like $24,000.
So
Yeah.
that big of a unit change is in
Mhm.
moving from one county to another. Isn't that more appropriately addressed by a grant agreement amendment than when you're trying to renew?
Well,
your grant?
I think it's gonna come under just a shifting anyway, but I think, because it wasn't changed in the last application, we are committed for another year anyway,
Yeah.
so,
Right.
but because it does have monetary implications, I think it does have to go through the, amendment.
Amendment process?
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay,
I would reach out to Angie
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
ask a question.
Mhm.
yeah,
So hopefully we'll have some input on, when a consolidation would not happen, based on, what information is available, like in the most recent NOFO. Doesn't really say anything about why a consolidation request would be
Denied.
denied.
Yeah.
So that was a little surprising.
yeah,
but-
especially when it says two or more.
I
Yeah,
think
may be
it
informative for
could
us
be.
to see about why not.
Maybe the only thing I can think of, one serves individual, two serve individuals and one serves families.
Yeah,
Maybe so.
there wasn't anything in the announcement about having to have the same population served. It
Mhm.
was strictly.
Basically project
Same
type.
agency, same project type,
Yeah.
yep. But, sounds like that would be an informative experience for everybody.
Right.
Yeah,
And, in the NOFO, it talks about when it's appropriate to consolidate, and that's just, when your agency runs two projects that are the same type, if you do consolidate and that's approved, your projects would continue uninterrupted. And just thinking, in terms of our local competition, consolidation may be advantageous to you in terms of how many projects you have to worry about on the priority list.
and APR.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah. I mean, back in the day when Share had transitional housing projects, we had two projects that were basically the same and we were able to consolidate and was no big deal. And then it just made our lives so much easier,
Mhm.
Mhm.
submitting one APR rather than two and all that. sort of thing.
Yeah,
So it is possible. But then HUD said there's no more transitional housing, so you have to adjust.
Mhm.
We talked about
Thank you.
that. That's right. They took away $500,000.
They don't want much.
Another thing that you could do as a part of the renewal grant process is reallocation. Reallocation is relinquishing full or partial awards in order to create opportunities for the building of new projects or expansion of other projects. Nobody wants to voluntarily reallocate very often. I definitely understand that, but there are some situations where partial reallocation could be beneficial to our CoC. If your grant consistently returns, greater than 10% of your amount for a handful of years,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you're leaving money on the table that could be used to create a new project.
true.
We have a limited pool of money and we wanna do the most that we can with that pool. So that's one of the reasons why it weighs so heavy on like our renewal applicant rating tool of did you use the vast majority of your grant? It's because we're trying to achieve everything that we can. If your project ever starts to seem unfit for the population that we have in our CoC, as in you are consistently returning greater than 10%, or maybe you're having a hard time working with referrals from our coordinated entry, or our coordinated entry has literally run out of referrals for your project, which has happened, and then, people on our prioritization list aren't fitting the specific requirements for that project, and we don't have any new people popping up that meet everything for a project, you know, to
Wow.
to refer them. It has happened historically, and continues to happen, you know, those are your indicators that maybe the project is not serving the greatest need in our community. And you could bring it to the grants committee and talk about reallocation. And maybe your agency is interested in creating a new project, you know, so it's not always a super negative thing. And then another thing that you can do is a transition grant. Transition grant is that 1 year process where you change your project's component type. It's something that we're very much interested in looking at doing for UHC's Safe Haven project. So what that would look like is a 1 year process for us to turn the Safe Haven project type into a permanent supportive housing project type.
Gotcha. Or maybe even some PSHs into Rapids or something in certain counties,
Yeah, it's all about, you know,
what's working and what the.
what
need is.
information do we need in order to decide what sort of project is appropriate where?
Right,
And then really being strategic about using that information appropriately.
correct.
And it might shake some things up. And it might mean we have to find some new people in counties that, by new people, I mean, new organizations in counties that we don't reach and invest in them and train them up to create these kinds of projects.
Yeah.
CoC may look really, really different in 10 years than it does look right now. But, you know, in order to best serve, that might be, you know,
No, true.
necessary.
I have a question about how this relates to like homeless prevention. So if someone wanted to do a project that maybe they turn rapid rehousing into, instead of using those funds for rapid rehousing, you put those funds towards homeless prevention, this will be that same transition process? Or is it a whole
So,
different level?
There's no prevention in
Yeah.
CoC.
Oh, that's ESG
Yeah,
funding.
CoC
Okay.
funding cannot be used to create a specific homeless prevention type of project.
Okay.
Yeah, so, whenever I meet new people and I'm like training them on the basics of the continuum and the funding sources, I always think about, you know, CoC is permanent solutions, so we have that rapid conditional, permanent supportive housing, and then the ESG is the soft services of homeless prevention, the outreach, emergency shelter,
Okay.
so
That makes
services
sense.
for people that are homeless
Mhm.
versus programs to house people.
I like that analogy. That makes CSD issue. Makes a lot of sense.
And then what you're all here to hear about is expansion. So expansion is the process used by renewal project applicants to submit a new project application in order to add funds to an existing project, to expand its current operations by adding units, beds, person serves, services provided to existing program participants. So you would complete your renewal application, just like you always do. So with your existing renewal, you'll submit that application with the activities and budget as written in your current grant agreement. Project name will be exactly the same. Name of the existing renewal should match the project name as it's listed on the grant inventory worksheet. And then your expansion grant, you'll be creating and submitting a new project application that includes the activities and budgets for the newly expanded portion of the project. And then the name of your expansion grant should be the same as the existing renewal grant, with the word expansion tagged on it. Super creative. And expansion grants can be created using CoC bonus funds, DV bonus funds, or reallocated funds. So just as a reminder, those CoC bonus funds are for, it would be for expansion grants that are adding on to projects that serve the general homeless population. And then the DV bonus funds would be used for expansion grants that are adding on to projects that serve victims or survivors of domestic violence. And reallocated funds are like CoC bonus funds, and that they're for anybody. One thing that I don't particularly understand, but need to relay is that you cannot expand a permanent supportive housing project with DV bonus funds. That was in the NOFO. They didn't provide loads of explanation around that, but a PSH project that serves victims or survivors of domestic violence can't be expanded with the DV bonus.
It kind of makes sense since PSH is really for folks who've been homeless for a long time and have some sort of disability. I guess the assumption is that hopefully most of the DV folks don't have some sort of disability in the household, but I mean, that's a major assumption. I don't know. Yeah. Do we have any PSH that focus on DV? I don't think.
Not that I know.
Not even our PSH run by our
Yeah.
DVA organization.
Yeah.
But it is a possible project type that we may have in some point in the future. Somebody here may have been interested in starting one, and so just to put it out there, I did catch this in the NOFO that
Yeah.
you can't expand PSH projects.
Right.
You can't create an expansion grant for a PSH project using DV bonus, which you can with reality.
I'm sorry, are you saying can or cannot?
So you cannot, apply for an expansion on an existing permanent supportive housing project specifically designed to serve victims or survivors of domestic violence, with DV bonus funds.
Okay, because on the slide it says can, so, okay.
But nobody in our continuum of care has a PSH project dedicated for domestic violence folks.
No, understood. I was just
If
trying
that's
to
something
correlate
worth
what she was saying with what was on the screen. Okay, thanks.
Where is it?
There's that last statement on the screen with the star, it says expansion can be created. That is a true overarching statement with that one single exception.
Thank you.
But that's a good point, and I do intend to put all these slides on the website, and I'll add a little note on here about that too. When you do your expansion grant, there are things that you are allowed to do and not allowed to do. Couple of the things that are allowed. With your expansion grant, you can expand your existing program to serve additional program participants, so creating capacity for more people. You can provide current participants with an expanded level of services, so more services for your existing people. You can provide current participants with facilities that meet health and safety standards. So maybe if you were in the situation that you needed funds to catch up with health and safety standards, that would be an eligible activity with your expansion grant. And then you can provide the same activities that are currently being provided to your participants that are CoC program eligible, but are previously funded by another source. So if you're running a permanent supportive housing project and one of the services that you are providing to your clients is a service that could technically be funded by the CoC grant, it's all in the program interim rule, but it's currently being funded by an external source. You could start covering that service with your expansion grant. It just as long as it's CoC program eligible. The things that you cannot do with your expansion grant, you can't use the expansion grant to provide existing program participants with the same housing and services already funded through the CoC program. Basically, they're saying, we've already given you the money to serve that number with the supportive services that you've told us about. So if we're gonna give you more money, it's gonna have to either be more people or more services. And then in your expansion grant, you cannot request capital costs, as in new construction, rehabilitation, or acquisition. They're ineligible and will be rejected in the expansion process. And my memo down at the bottom is that these were taken from the 2023 NOFO announcement, and are just intended to be an example. I've just put that on lots of slides today because we know how frequently these things change.
So like where it says, where it's allowed, and it says provide current participants with an expanded level of services. So for rave is a program that we do not get supportive services funding on currently. Could we expand and request that?
Yes.
Sounds like a yes. And if you wanted to, you could put more money in there and serve more people as well with those expanded services.
Yeah, so your expansion grant would just lean heavy supportive services. If
Right.
you're trying to, provide supportive services to people that are already there. And maybe new people if you're
Yeah.
interested in increasing the population. Or not population, but client, when you want.
And then like, because when you make changes, you're like, my renewal would be like potentially tier 1, but my expansion part may hit tier 2.
That's kind of
My
what I was thinking
understanding.
too.
Okay.
Yeah, we
I'm
have
just
to-
trying to understand all this since I hadn't went through it yet.
Yeah, that's probably what the grants committee would do to secure, we wouldn't want to put the renewal in tier 2.
Right.
Let's want to keep it. But unless there was like a really overarching need in our CoC, I can't see these expansion grants going into tier 1.
So I had that memo of, for the sake of the priority listing.
Right.
As it is right now, expansion grants will be rated and ranked. The
Jump
same as
ahead.
new projects, so they're gonna be rated with the new project level. And, just recognizing that traditionally we put new projects in tier 2. So that same ideology would lead to us placing expansion grants in tier 2, where we are reducing damage, if we don't get tier 2. It can be more damaging to lose an existing grant than it would, an expansion grant. Yeah. On that topic though, it is in the NOFO that this wouldn't happen to anyone in our continuum because of these rating practices. But your expansion grant could be awarded and your renewal could not be awarded if you went the direction of putting your renewal into tier 2. So they see your expansion grant as a standalone. Where it's not like the two are dependent. If our continuum decided to put all of our expansion grants at the top and that pushed some of our renewals into tier 2. And that renewal didn't get funded, but their expansion did.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what
And
that's what you got
yeah.
now. Yeah.
Now, so if you just did like only supportive services,
Right.
you would have supportive service money for no clients.
Yeah.
That's what you got.
Yeah. And back in the day, there were folks that, when HUD came out with tier 1 and tier 2, there were some, CoCs that put their HMIS in tier 2, and it did not get funded. Because their tier 2s did not get funded, and so they lost HMIS dollars, so we have to be really smart about this. I mean, it's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy, but you would think HMIS should just be automatically renewed for every CoC.
Just like our planning grant.
But I'm not running HUD, so it's different.
Have too much sense. Of the requirement.
That's the end of the content that I had to present with you. This was mostly set up to just be conversational and a chance to ask any questions, with the group being present, from our existing entities.
Can we see some faces?
Yeah, bring them back. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We can't even really look at them.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Any other questions about, any of the subjects that we covered or didn't cover?
So everybody's gonna submit an expansion grant. Is that what's going on?
Like, where is the, once again, sorry, new process, where do you complete the NOFO? Like,
Online.
where's the,
It's
It's
in
just-
eSnap.
it's in eSnap.
It's in a
Okay.
database online.
Okay.
Snaps, yeah.
Okay,
There's a
Thank you.
secret handshake. We'll tell you all about it. You can get in there.
thank you.
Did you catch the end of NOFO last year or did you start?
Yeah, y'all had just submitted it.
But you've seen eSnaps.
Yes, I've seen eSnap.
Yeah, so you will renew your existing grants and eSnaps. That'll be pretty easy with submit without changes. And then your expansion grant would also start and end in eSnaps. So it's all housed in that one
Mhm.
database, website, whatever you call it.
Robert
like on
submitted
what?
it last year.
Like on the one that we're looking at doing an amendment to. We would have to do the amendment for the new year. Before we could renew for the next NOFO.
Yeah, I mean, we're just renewing what we haven't even gotten yet for May, like May 1st or June
Yeah.
1.
Yeah,
So, yeah. The timing is, off.
yeah.
Expansion grants are gonna be in the same pool with our new applicants where we can't guarantee any sort of funding or success or anything.
Mhm.
I'll just encourage everybody to take a stab at it because really, after looking at our points this morning, I hope you all feel the same way that I do, that we have a good chance of having a better score next year than we did this year.
Yes.
For a couple of different reasons. Our system performance measures are better.
Mhm.
I don't know that the CoC has ever really done exactly what we did today, where we publicly looked at. These are the points, literally the points that we need and exactly how to get them, how are we gonna figure out as a team how to
Yeah.
get them?
Yeah, the
Um,
grants committee has, and I think we've done them in advisory, but it would be good, like, to maybe put them on the board or something where they're real prevalent and we just don't forget about them and all of our day-to-day routines that we have to deal with. So,
I think there's several areas on the next level where we'll gain points that we didn't get last year.
mhm.
So that's going to boost our chances of our tier 2 being funded. Tier
Right.
2 right now is where we're putting our bonuses and our expansions.
Right.
Um,
And if those new projects get funded, we are able to expand our capacity in terms of who we're able to serve. And as a CoC, we're well below our annual renewal demand.
Mhm.
So, we're not in any danger of like asking for too much. And, there are continuums of care throughout the country that are receiving many more dollars than what their annual renewal demand would allow. And that's because they're performing very well.
Mhm.
So we've got a lot of opportunities to be able to go up and increase our capacity and services that we provide.
Mhm.
Is anybody on the call, seriously thinking about, doing some expansion and tell us a little bit about what that would look like? Wow. Well, I know, Cher, we're gonna do one, and we might as well go ahead and serve more folks through the rapid rehousing program.
Mhm.
And yeah, because Summer's not working hard enough, so, she's still muted, interesting.
I was gonna say that better include some salary for a helper this summer. I'll come in for her.
Absolutely,
Second that.
Mhm.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, because we're still seeing a huge need in Greenville County, for example, for that, so that need's not going away. And so that, I think, it's really smart, like, Brooks, for example. Are we seeing an increase in the number of folks with HIV who are homeless? Or is it kind of a steady number, or what do you think?
They did.
I wanna let him answer first.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, even if you ask for like 5 more units or something, you know?
I can talk to you from
Uh-huh.
coordinated entry.
Yeah,
No,
okay,
just not being put in coordinated entry, and that can be for many reasons, obviously.
gotcha,
But, our capacity probably
Right.
matches what we have in our system right now.
okay,
I think there's maybe a few people on the list.
yeah,
But not very many who would
Okay.
even fit the PSA
Right.
criteria, along with that extra added.
gotcha.
They expanded probably in 2018 before Mary Kay left.
Oh, that's right,
And
that's
5
right.
units.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're in a good place.
Even now.
All of a grant and a capacity that matches very well
Yeah.
what our community needs.
Mhm.
Where not many people are leaving PSH.
Right.
That's by design.
Mhm.
Not many people are going
Yeah.
in.
Right.
And so, in that scenario, for that specific population, I don't see a
Yeah.
huge, database evidence
Right.
for expansion
Right.
or any database evidence for reallocation. I think that's pretty well fit.
I would say, expanding rapid rehousing, and this is just from coordinated entry, is certainly a good idea. We
Yeah.
always have a lot of people who fit,
Yeah.
the rapid rehousing criteria. I
And
just
they need
worry
the
that
help.
it's I just worry that it's being recycled. So,
What's being
What do you
recycled?
mean?
the people are being recycled.
Oh, you mean they can't succeed and then?
Oh, they're being selected, but they're not able to find housing or something?
Because
They
of
go back on-
eviction or because of history, and
Right.
then if they are accepted, they do the term, and then a
Right.
lot of times you see them back
Yeah.
in coordinated entry
Right,
a few months later, so it's kind of
yeah,
looking as if
Yeah.
it's not working, when you just look at their
Yeah.
coordinated entry assessment and how many times they've been in there, been in
Yes.
rapid.
Well, so if we looked at our data, and I know we're going off the track a little bit. If we look at our data, we do have a lot of households who are on the coordinated entry list who have little or zero income. And so one thing I think we need to look at as a CoC is that joint transitional housing to rapid rehousing grant. And now that would be a new grant, that wouldn't be considered an expansion grant. But I think it's something that we need to look at. I know I'm looking at it real seriously as well. It's just a matter of coming up with a match and all that fun stuff. But I think that's gonna be the way to move a lot of these folks with zero income, because again, if you're a landlord, you're not looking for people with zero income to rent to, you know? That just doesn't make any sense, but we as programs, with an understanding of the process, we'd be more than happy to, take those folks on as a risk, et cetera, do the case management to help them move forward, et cetera, and go forward. So, expansion is one idea, but we may need to look at some new, programs that meet the needs of the folks that are on our list.
How many people are on the list? 700?
I would say around 700 to 800 people currently.
So we have 700 to 800 people on the list that have been identified as homeless or households, right?
Households.
And
Not individuals?
No,
You
not
know,
individuals.
I'll show you guys this information that I pulled recently from the grants committee. I think I did this last month, so it's not like today, but it's very, very current. This is just an overview of who's on our participating list. 1,100
1,100
households. 712 of those are individuals. 70 are households without children. 295 are families with children. And 34 data not collected. 153 are fleeing situations of domestic violence. 335, which is about a third of the list, were chronically homeless households.
there's your PSH. Anybody wants to do more PSH?
Family PSH.
Oh, family PSH, okay.
And the big hurdle with that is if you don't have that piece of proof for disability, you're pretty much just, and I hate to say that you're stuck unless we put you in rapid, but again, that's creating a cycle for you to fail.
Right, they gotta qualify as chronic, yes,
What's,
and 117
DNC?
veteran.
They're not gonna. So it's a big hurdle,
Yeah.
and
I
even
mean, you
you
gotta
got
have it,
chronically
yeah.
homeless, I mean, I don't understand HUD, how do you want me to prove?
Yeah,
Being homeless,
And then,
like, what do you want me to do?
An obvious majority were living in a place not meant for habitation, so that could be unsheltered or in their car or
Yeah, gotta get
situations like that.
we see a lot of those through our rapid program.
Yep.
I would have thought more coming out of shelters, but now it's definitely a place not meant.
At least a third reported 0 monthly income.
Yeah.
Cause we don't have enough shelter beds.
No, exactly,
No,
right,
and zero in Spartan, well, there's 2 shelters in Spartanburg.
Disabling conditions, green was 0, and so orange is at least, orange is 1 disabling condition, and blue was 2 or more. So 2/3 of the people on our prioritization list have at least 1 disabling condition.
wow.
This is self-reported,
Yeah,
this is what they're responding to.
It's the documentation that's hard.
That's
Yeah.
the hurdle.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
people are in the
They,
system.
they like to tell you, but it's getting
Maybe we need to create,
that signed off on.
maybe we need to create a documentation verification service. Of course you're crazy.
And honestly, I was looking, and me and Natalie always talk about trying to work with partners who are already existing, because I know Triumph, they have social workers
Yes.
who can clinically
Right.
say, yes, this person has mental health disorder, or whatever
Right.
the case may be. It's just creating those
Yes.
randoms and
Yeah.
bringing other people to the table, because I know that's a big hurdle for caseworkers with that
Right.
paperwork.
Because
And I
they
tell
gotta
them I'm
know what-
sorry all the
Yeah,
time.
they gotta
Yeah,
know.
I gotta-
Mhm.
and we
If they're
tell,
on the list, I gotta refer them.
Right, right.
and the shelters too, we tell those folks to go ahead and start trying to get the information while they're waiting in the shelter.
Lots of people without documentation, as in no ID, no social security card. Lots of people
Disability.
with criminal history, 238.
See, all this points to transitional housing, getting people, provided they don't have a major disability,
Mhm.
or especially mental health disability. Physical one's not that much of an impediment for rapid, but it's the mental health one that's more of an impediment.
And doing those wraparound services.
Right.
Because, I mean, most of the time, if they don't have a job
Right.
and they're homeless, then putting them in a house is not
Yeah.
going to, doesn't mean they're gonna get a job,
Right. Right.
especially if no one's
Well, and,
helping them.
you know, and
with
that,
process.
I mean, permanent, it's difficult if they don't want, they have
That's
the
it.
mental health, and then,
Mhm.
yeah. And they don't want the services.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what Bruce is saying, preaching transitional. The hard part is that a lot of those are housing first, which means not housing ready. And I think transitional is something our community really needs. And I think there are some people in the room, on Zoom here, especially that, I can't speak for your capacity, but I can speak for the skill set to be able to do that really successfully. And even just having more opportunities, like Bruce said, just having more rapid rehousing and having more PSH gives these people a place to go. There's definitely stages, but the first is giving them the opportunity. And then, how do we help them be successful with that should they accept it is tough. But I feel like transitional housing is really the only place other than expanding on existing shelters or services only projects. And there's the rapid services only as well that just came out. And a lot of, other like the NOFO and YHDP and other funds and stuff that if we could connect, I think that these programs would be more successful. And honestly, they weren't meant to be standalone. We were supposed to work in collaboration, which is I think why they don't work standalone.
But correct me if I'm wrong, like if they're in transitional, then they wouldn't qualify for PSH.
That is
They
correct.
do.
Yeah,
There's
okay.
still
And they would be
homeless
counted
in terms of
homeless.
like our performance measures
Yeah.
and things like that. But yeah,
Okay.
not for PSA.
I'm getting there.
Mhm.
I'm getting
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
All the little
you are learning
weird-
how. You're about ready to take the pebble from my hand.
Isn't, safe harbor sort of bouncing around some ideas about expansion? Put you on the spot, consolidate your registration, so I know you are.
I think we're thinking about it. I don't want to firmly commit to it because I think we need to talk about it as a team since Jean and I are both fairly new and Michelle is new to Rapid. But if we have the capacity to pull it off in terms of making sure we can spend down the funds, then we might be interested.
I think that would be fantastic.
The need is there, the list is.
So the DV list is still high.
Yes.
Gotcha, yeah,
Mhm.
that's so unfortunate,
That's
but
pretty
yeah.
I know there were a lot of agencies who also stated that they wanted to be here and they have interest and intention who couldn't come today. So hopefully they'll be able to circle back and watch these videos and connect with you guys. I think it was discussed briefly with Hope Missions out there. I know Step by Steps talked about it. Whatever we can do to help them.
Is there anything else with the data that tells us, oh, this is a group that we should try to focus on, or this is a part of the 13 counties that could really use this type of project?
I mean, the answer to your question is yes, but is there an opportunity as far as funding goes to actually serve those people?
Well-
No. Well, just how HUD and the programs are set up, parameters around them, no.
So
because-
what are you pointing at now?
So we have people who have 2 or more disabilities,
Okay,
but aren't chronically homeless. So in an ideal fashion, they would be in a PSH,
Gotcha.
except for that hurdle of proving that they've been homeless chronically. And then on the flip side of that, we have individuals who are chronically homeless. We know they're chronically homeless and they don't have that disability.
you can't prove the disability.
Right, and so they're just kind of sitting, those individuals
Okay.
are sitting in limbo, and it's hard to maneuver with them because we also have a large population of people who need rapid rehousing.
Right,
So putting them in a rapid rehousing position is not a good idea
Right.
when it's not,
yeah,
it's most likely not gonna be successful.
right,
So that gap is what I'm talking about as far as,
Okay.
we do have people who
Yeah.
we should be serving, but we can't, with the HUD funding.
One of the things that I've learned, gone through recently is, and we can put this on the agenda for the advisory council meeting too, but it's just understanding the, the regulation that you could actually have somebody who had documentation for 25% of your files, and I'll bring the regulation, I hope I don't speak out of line here, but because this was something new for me, we know that there's a certain quarter of your files that can self-certify. You should always try to have third-party documentation. For example, if they're sleeping in their car, you shouldn't just take their words, you should really try to get, clarification or documentation, third party from the caseworker. I believe this is true. They have lots of clothes in the car like this. And you really want to do due diligence because that's what our funder asked us to do. But 25% of those episodes could be self-certification. And I believe it's 25% of the entire case files in that program could be all self-certification. If you've tried everything in your power to get them,
yeah,
self-certified, and I'll bring the documentation so that we can
That
share.
was news to me. I was not aware of that little
Yeah.
sneaky
Yeah.
order. I knew self-certification could account for a piece.
I thought it was 3 months, I thought it was 3 months, you could only.
3 months, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
It's like
Didn't know it could ever account.
25.
3 months, that's what I
Yes.
heard, yes.
It's 25% of your case file. And then,
Yeah, I'd heard 3 months.
yeah. I got the regulation from Angie to share with everybody.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's on the HUD exchange. If you just Google record keeping requirements for chronic status or like the virtual binders. It's on there. We had a lot. We always floated for our rapid on the just self-certification for actual literal homelessness. So it was something we used to our advantage as much as humanly possible. That's not PSH, but it was something we very strategically used to
Right.
be able to admit more people.
Smart. So, I think it would be wise for us to strategically use that, with some of the folks that Nona was just talking about, where we know, but we can't prove,
Mhm.
by some sort of thing, and just bring those folks into a particular program,
And just do a self-audit too, like you gotta know how
Yes,
many of your
right.
files,
Mhm.
because,
Right.
you don't wanna lose your funding.
Right.
And if you've already met that criteria, you can't take any new people that don't have it,
Right.
but we've walked through that process recently, so.
I think that would be pretty easy to implement.
Mhm.
If you're a case manager, then you've seen Nona's vacancy form for HDC where you can explicitly tell her this vacancy is fit for chronically homeless, DV, what county it's in, all kinds of details about the opportunity that you have. And so if agencies are able to keep up with, right now, we could take on 2 more people that
Right.
self-certified and remain under that 25%.
Yep.
We can start plucking those people.
Yeah,
That
let's
would
do
be
it.
good. That would be really good.
Yeah, I just wanted to say also, since it's a little bit of a newer thing for maybe some people in the room too, is that for that chronic homelessness verification, HUD also accepts any written observation by a community member, not just an outreach or intake worker or verifiable shelter stay. So we would grab letters, and Julie had a template and would take it to the people to make it easy. So if you're a receiving agency, I know there's a few of you in here, if you can't self-certify, you can often get those outreach workers who've seen them for the last 4 years, or just a community member. It doesn't have to be a nonprofit employee who
Right.
is the receiving agency or UHC or somebody like that to do that.
Yep.
So don't let that be a barrier for acceptance.
Any other thoughts or feelings about expansions? Anything? Something, that's really been on my mind is what can we do strategically with our priority listing? Where we recognize that moving new projects up into our tier 1 ensures that we would get new projects in our community. I mean, the counterpart is we put existing projects at risk. But I feel like there's just some strategy to be had there. So maybe just something for us to start thinking about this year.
So let me throw this out there, because Meg's house is looking at doing some changing. So right now we have we have 5 transitional units. We have our rapid rehousing program, and then we have our permanent supportive. We've been, as Candace mentioned, we've been trying to